The story of every Ash Ace Pokemon. Now you guys are probably wondering which Pokemon I'm going to include in this video. I mean, most of them are pretty self-explanatory, but the one that's really questionable is Unova. Personally, I really liked Pignite in that series, but it obviously has to go to Krookodile since he had the best win rate and really felt like Ash's ace in Unova. As for the rest, they're all pretty self-explanatory, so let's get right into the first ace Pokemon, Ash's strongest Pokemon. The Pokemon that defeated legendary Pokemon, battled champions, and stayed by Ash's side from the very beginning to the very end, Pikachu. Before becoming Ash's partner, Pikachu actually started his life as a wild Pichu. This wasn't revealed until Pokemon Journeys, where we finally got to see his backstory. As a young Pichu, he was all alone until a mother Kangaskhan found him and began raising him alongside her own baby. For the first time, Pichu finally had a family. He spent his days playing with the young Kangaskhan and traveling with the herd, but as they both got bigger, Pichu realized the mother was struggling to carry them both. Not wanting to become a burden, he quietly left during the night. As he walked away from the only family he had ever known, the strong emotions in his heart caused him to evolve into Pikachu. Sometime later, Pikachu was captured and eventually ended up at Professor Oak's lab. Even there, he refused to trust humans and became known as the stubborn Pikachu that nobody wanted. That all changed when he met Ash. At first, Pikachu wanted nothing to do with his new trainer. He shocked him constantly, refused to enter his Pokeball, and didn't listen to a single command. But after seeing someone willing to risk everything to protect him from a flock of Spearow, Pikachu finally realized he had found someone he could trust. From that moment on, the two became inseparable, creating one of the strongest bonds in all of Pokemon. Throughout Kanto and Johto, Pikachu quickly proved he was far stronger than an ordinary Pikachu. One of his biggest moments came against Lieutenant Surge's Raichu. After suffering a crushing defeat, Pikachu was given the chance to evolve with a Thunderstone. Instead, he chose to stay a Pikachu and prove that he could become stronger without evolving. During the rematch, he defeated Raichu using his speed and experience, a moment that became one of the most iconic battles in the entire anime. As the journey continued, Pikachu constantly grew stronger. He defeated powerful gym leaders, helped win the Orange League, mastered new moves like Iron Tail and Volt Tackle, and during the Battle Frontier, he accomplished something almost nobody thought was possible by defeating Brandon's Regis. It was Pikachu's first victory over a legendary Pokemon and proved that he had reached an entirely different level. In Sinnoh, Pikachu continued showing why he was Ash's most dependable partner. He battled some of the region's strongest trainers and even fought Tobias's Latios. After one of the toughest battles of his career, Pikachu managed to knock out the legendary Pokemon, ending the match in a draw and becoming one of the very few Pokemon ever shown defeating a legendary in an official league battle. Unova was one of Pikachu's toughest regions. After encountering Zekrom, he temporarily lost access to his electric-type attacks and struggled early on. But as always, Pikachu fought his way back, regained his strength, learned Electro Ball, and once again became one of the strongest members of the team. By the time Kalos arrived, Pikachu had become one of the most experienced Pokemon in the world. He defeated Karina's Mega Lucario, helped carry the team through the Kalos League, and once again proved that he could stand against Mega Evolution without needing one himself. In Alola, Pikachu reached another level. He gained access to powerful Z moves, including the exclusive 10 million volt Thunderbolt. He played a major role in helping win Ash's first official league championship, before defeating the legendary Tapu Koko in one of the greatest battles of his entire career. Finally, in Pokemon Journeys, Pikachu unlocked the ability to Gigantamax and competed in the World Coronation Series against the strongest trainers on the planet. After climbing all the way to the Masters 8, Pikachu faced Leon's Charizard in the final battle. Pushing himself beyond his limits, Pikachu landed the deciding blow that made Ash the new monarch and the strongest trainer in the world. So that's basically Pikachu's entire journey. Now let's go all the way back to Kanto with our next ace Pokemon, Charizard. Charizard's story actually began as a lonely Charmander that had been abandoned by its original trainer, Damien. After deciding Charmander was too weak, Damien left him on top of a rock and promised he would return. Charmander waited through heavy rain for hours, refusing to leave because he believed his trainer would come back. The flame on his tail grew weaker as the rain continued, putting his life in danger. Thankfully, Ash and his friends found Charmander just in time and brought him to safety. After realizing Damien had never planned on returning, Charmander chose to join Ash instead, beginning one of the greatest journeys in the entire anime. Charmander quickly proved himself in battle and eventually evolved into Charmeleon after defeating a group of Executor. However, that evolution completely changed his personality. Charmeleon became stubborn, stopped listening to Ash, Ash and only battled whenever he felt like it. Things only became worse after Charmeleon evolved into Charizard during Ash's battle with Blaine. While Charizard's new power helped save everyone from Blaine's Magmar, he completely ignored Ash's commands afterward. Charizard believed he had become too strong to listen to an inexperienced trainer, making him one of the hardest Pokemon for Ash to control. Because Charizard refused to battle seriously, Ash lost important matches, including his Indigo League battle against Richie. Instead of fighting, Charizard simply decided to take a nap, costing Ash the tournament and showing just how damaging their broken relationship had become. Even though Charizard ignored him, Ash never gave up on him. That dedication finally paid off in the Orange Islands when Charizard was frozen solid during a battle against Poliwrath. Ash stayed by Charizard's side all night, doing everything he could to keep him warm and save his life. When Charizard woke up and realized Ash had never abandoned him, everything changed. For the first time since evolving, Charizard fully accepted Ash as his trainer and began listening to Ash. From that moment on, Charizard became one of Ash's strongest Pokemon. He helped Ash win the Orange League by defeating Drake's Dragonite, battled through Johto, and earned one of the biggest victories of his career by defeating Gary's Blastoise during the Silver Conference. Not long after, Ash made the difficult decision to leave Charizard at the Cherisific Valley so he could train alongside Wild Charizard that were even stronger than he was. Although it was hard for both of them, Ash knew this was the best way for Charizard to keep getting stronger. Even while training there, Charizard returned whenever Ash truly needed him. He came back during the Battle Frontier and defeated Nolan's Articuno, becoming one of the very few non-legendary Pokemon to defeat a legendary in an official battle. Later, Charizard returned once again for the Unova League, proving he hadn't lost any of his strength despite spending so much time training away from Ash, although Charizard never became a permanent member of Ash's team again. Every time he returned, he reminded everyone why he was considered one of Ash's greatest ace Pokemon. Now, Charizard was actually one of Ash's strongest Pokemon, but next we're talking about one of the most debated ace Pokemon in Ash's entire team, Sceptile. Now, this might surprise a lot of people, but Sceptile actually only had around a 61% win rate, making him one of Ash's lower performing ace Pokemon by overall record. Even with that, Sceptile is still remembered as one of Ash's strongest Pokemon, because of one battle that nobody will ever forget. So let's go all the way back to Hoenn. Sceptile's story began as a wild Treecko living deep in the forest. Unlike most wild Pokemon, Treecko was already incredibly calm, confident, and independent. He protected the forest and wasn't afraid to stand up to stronger opponents. After seeing Ash's determination and the way he cared for Pokemon, Treecko chose to join his team. From the very beginning, Treecko was one of Ash's most reliable battlers. He quickly became the leader of Ash's Hoenn team and earned several important victories throughout the region. As he continued growing stronger, Treecko eventually evolved into Grovyle, gaining even more speed and power. However, Grovyle's biggest challenge wasn't a battle. He fell in love with the Meganium, but she had feelings for another Pokemon instead. After protecting her, despite having his heart broken, Grovyle eventually evolved into Sceptile. Unfortunately, the heartbreak caused Sceptile to temporarily lose the ability to use his Grass-type moves, making him struggle in battle until he regained his confidence. Once Sceptile overcame that obstacle, he returned stronger than ever. He helped Ash throughout the rest of Hoenn, and later came back during the Sinnoh League, where he had the greatest battle of his entire career. Tobias's Darkrai had defeated every trainer it faced throughout the tournament, but Sceptile refused to back down. After an incredible battle, Sceptile landed the finishing blow and became the first Pokemon ever shown defeating Tobias's Darkrai. Even though Ash would eventually lose that match, Sceptile's victory over Darkrai became one of the greatest moments in Pokemon history, and is the main reason fans still consider him one of Ash's strongest ace Pokemon. Now, after Sceptile, we have a Pokemon that many fans consider to be one of Ash's strongest ace Pokemon ever, Infernape. Personally, I don't think he's Ash's strongest, but there's no denying that he's right up there alongside Charizard as one of Ash's most powerful Pokemon. Infernape's story actually began as a Chimchar owned by Paul. Paul believed Chimchar had incredible potential because of its Blaze ability, but when Chimchar couldn't control that power consistently, Paul saw him as a failure. After several harsh losses and brutal training sessions, Paul released Chimchar, believing he was too weak. Not long after, Ash found Chimchar and welcomed him onto the team. Unlike Paul, Paul, Ash didn't care about forcing out Chimchar's hidden power. Instead, he focused on building Chimchar's confidence and helping him grow at his own pace. For the first time, Chimchar had a trainer who truly believed in him, and that completely changed the direction of his life. As Chimchar trained with Ash's team, he slowly became stronger and started forming close friendships with the rest of Ash's Pokémon. Every battle helped him gain more confidence, and before long, Chimchar evolved into Monferno. Even after evolving though, Blaze was still difficult to control. Whenever it activated, Monferno would often lose control of his emotions, making battles just as dangerous for him as they were for his opponents. Everything changed when Ash and Paul met again. During one of their biggest rival battles, Monferno came face to face with the trainer who had abandoned him. The memories of Paul's harsh training came flooding back, causing Blaze to activate once again. This time, however, Monferno refused to lose control. He fought through the pain and emotions before finally evolving into Infernape, becoming stronger than ever. From that point on, Infernape became the ace of Ash's Sinnoh team. He continued training to fully master Blaze, turning what was once his greatest weakness into his greatest strength. Every battle pushed him closer to reaching the potential that Paul had always talked about, but never had the patience to develop. Everything built toward Ash's full battle against Paul in the Sinnoh League. After years of rivalry, it all came down to Infernape versus Paul's Electivire. It wasn't just a battle between two Pokemon anymore, it was the conclusion of everything Chimchar had gone through since the day Paul caught him. Pushing Blaze to its absolute limit, Infernape defeated Electivire and finally proved Paul wrong, completing one of the greatest character arcs in the entire Pokemon anime. After the Sinnoh League, Infernape remained one of Ash's strongest Pokemon while training at Professor Oak's laboratory. Even without traveling with Ash anymore, he never stopped getting stronger and continued training alongside Ash's other powerful Pokemon, especially Charizard. Years later, during Pokemon Journeys, Infernape returned and challenged Moltres on his own. Although he couldn't defeat the legendary Pokemon, simply standing up to Moltres showed just how much stronger he had become since Sinnoh. Even after all those years, Infernape was still searching for stronger opponents and pushing himself to new limits. Now, after the amazing character arc of Infernape, we head into Unova with one of Ash's most underrated ace Pokemon, Krookodile. Now, unlike the other ace Pokemon, Krookodile was never really treated as the clear ace of the series. But looking back at Unova, he was easily Ash's strongest Pokemon outside of Pikachu, and he had the best overall battle record on the team. Krookodile's story actually began as a wild Krokorok. Long before Ash ever caught him, Krokorok became interested in Ash after watching him battle. Instead of attacking Ash like most wild Pokemon, Krokorok followed him throughout Unova, almost acting like a rival who wanted to prove himself. He would constantly appear out of nowhere to watch Ash's gym battles and important matches. Every time Team Rocket caused trouble, Krokorok was usually nearby, helping out before disappearing again. It quickly became clear that he respected Ash and wanted to battle alongside him someday. Eventually, during a battle against the powerful Dragon-type Pokemon Dragonite, Krokorok stepped in to help Ash. After seeing Krokorok's determination and realizing how long he had been following him, Ash caught him, finally making him an official member of the team. Even after joining Ash, Krokorok continued proving himself in battle. He quickly became one of Ash's most dependable Pokemon and eventually evolved into Krookodile, gaining even more strength and confidence. Krookodile played a major role throughout the rest of Unova. He defeated Iris's Dragonite during the Junior Cup, earned important victories in gym battles, and became Ash's go-to Pokemon whenever he needed a powerful finisher. His greatest moment came during the Unova League against Ash's rival Trip. Trip's Serperior had defeated Pikachu at the very beginning of the journey, making this one of the biggest rival battles in the region. After Pikachu defeated Serperior, Krookodile entered the battle against Trip's Lucario. In an intense final showdown, Krookodile landed the winning Stone Edge, defeating Lucario and giving Ash the victory over his biggest rival. Although Unova is often remembered as one of Ash's weaker regions, Krookodile was one of the brightest spots in the entire series. Now, going from one of Ash's weaker ace Pokemon, we move on to who is probably Ash's strongest ace Pokemon, not counting Pikachu, Greninja. And honestly, I think Greninja has the best argument. He wasn't only incredibly powerful, but he also unlocked a transformation that no other Pokemon had ever achieved. Greninja's story began as a Froakie living at Professor Sycamore's laboratory. Froakie had already been chosen by multiple trainers before meeting Ash, but none of those partnerships worked out. Froakie was extremely serious about battling and refused to stay with trainers he didn't respect. When Ash arrived in Kalos, Froakie helped protect Pikachu from Team Rocket. Later, Froakie watched Ash risk his life to save both Pikachu and a rampaging Garchomp. Seeing Ash's courage convinced Froakie that he had finally found the right trainer, and he chose to join Ash's team. Froakie quickly became one of the most reliable members of Ash's Kalos team. He was calm, calm, determined, and always focused on improving. After training with Sanpei and his Frogadier, Froakie eventually evolved into Frogadier while protecting Ash and his friends from a powerful Barbarcle. Later, Frogadier traveled to the ninja village with Ash and Sanpei. During an attack on the village, Frogadier pushed himself past his limits while battling several Bisharp and evolved into Greninja. After evolving, Greninja began unlocking a mysterious transformation. Whenever Ash and Greninja became completely synchronized, Greninja's appearance changed to resemble Ash, and his speed and power increased dramatically. Ash could even see through Greninja's eyes and feel the same damage he felt. At first, they couldn't control the form. Greninja transformed during battles against Alan's Mega Charizard X and Diantha's Mega Gardevoir, but the power placed too much pressure on both of them. Their biggest setback came during Ash's first battle against Wulfric, when Ash became too focused on forcing the transformation and lost the connection that made it possible. After working through their problems, Ash and Greninja finally learned to trust each other completely. They mastered Ash Greninja and defeated Wulfric's Mega Abomasnow during the rematch, earning Ash his final Kalos Gym badge. Greninja then became the ace of Ash's Kalos League team. In the semi-final, Ash Greninja defeated Sawyer's Mega Sceptile and sent Ash into the final against Alen. The final battle came down to Ash Greninja versus Mega Charizard X. Greninja fought with everything he had and pushed Charizard to its limit, but after their final attacks collided, Greninja was the one who fell. Ash lost the Kalos League, but Greninja had still proven he could battle some of the strongest Mega Evolved Pokemon in the world. During Team Flare's attack, Lysandra captured Ash and Greninja because he wanted to use the power of their bond. Ash and Greninja managed to break free, defeat Lysandra's Mega Gyarados with the others, and help stop the giant rock from destroying Kalos. After the crisis ended, Zygarde revealed that dangerous roots from the giant rock were still spreading throughout the region. Greninja was one of the only Pokemon able to sense them, so he made the difficult decision to stay behind and protect Kalos. Years later, Greninja returned during Pokemon Journeys. He trained Ash's Lucario, helped him understand how to control his aura, and showed that he had continued becoming stronger while protecting Kalos. From a Froakie that rejected multiple trainers to a Greninja that unlocked a legendary transformation and protected an entire region, Greninja had one of the greatest journeys of any Pokemon Ash ever owned. He defeated Mega Evolved Pokemon, challenged a champion, reached the Kalos League final, and later helped train the Pokemon Ash used to become world champion. Now, after talking about one of Ash's strongest ace Pokemon, we move on to Lycanroc. Lycanroc was the Pokemon that was supposed to follow Greninja as Ash's next major ace. I don't think he always lived up to that level of hype, but I still really liked his character, his own special form, and he was the Pokemon that finally helped Ash win a Pokemon League. Lycanroc's story began as a wild Rockruff living near Professor Kukui's house. Rockruff would regularly leave at night and return covered in injuries. Ash eventually discovered that Rockruff had been secretly training with a group of wild rock-type Pokemon because he wanted to become stronger. Rockruff loved battling, but he was still inexperienced, and sometimes allowed his emotions to control him. After seeing how much determination Rockruff had, Ash helped him learn Rock Throw and eventually caught him, making Rockruff an official member of his Alola team. One of Rockruff's biggest goals was evolving into Lycanroc. He spent time around both Professor Kukui's midday form Lycanroc and Gladian's midnight form Lycanroc, but nobody knew which form Rockruff would eventually become. As Rockruff grew closer to evolving, he became more aggressive and struggled to control himself. He even ran away after accidentally attacking Ash during training. While separated from the group, Rockruff encountered Tapu Lele and continued pushing himself despite being badly injured. At sunset, Rockruff finally evolved. However, he didn't become the midday or midnight form. Instead, he evolved into the extremely rare dust form Lycanroc, combining traits from both other forms. This gave Ash a special Pokemon that almost nobody else possessed. Even after evolving, Lycanroc still had one major weakness. Whenever his fur became dirty or he grew extremely angry, his eyes would turn red and he would lose control. In this state, Lycanroc became much stronger, but he would ignore Ash's commands and attack recklessly. This problem cost Lycanroc important battles, including his fight against Nanu's Krookodile during Ash's grand trial. Lycanroc became angry after its fur was dirtied and completely lost focus. Ash helped Lycanroc understand that he didn't need to fear the power inside him. Instead of trying to suppress his red-eyed state, Lycanroc learned to control it and use the extra strength without losing himself. Lycanroc's biggest rivalry was with Gladian's midnight form Lycanroc. Gladian's Lycanroc was more experienced, more aggressive, and had defeated Rockruff before he evolved. Every time the two battled, Ash's Lycanroc became more determined to surpass him. Lycanroc continued growing stronger throughout Alola and eventually learned Stone Edge and Counter. He became one of Ash's main battlers and helped him complete the Island Challenge. Everything came together during the first Alola Pokemon League. Lycanroc defeated Kiawe's Charizard in the semifinals, helping Ash advance to the finals final against Gladion. The final battle eventually came down to Dust Form Lycanroc against Midnight Form Lycanroc. Both Pokemon were exhausted, but neither was willing to give up. Gladion's Lycanroc used Counter to return the damage from Lycanroc's attack, but Ash's Lycanroc answered with a counter of his own, sending the attack back one final time. Midnight Lycanroc fell, and Dust Form Lycanroc remained standing. That victory made Ash the first champion of the Alola Pokemon League. After years of league losses, it was Lycanroc who finally landed the winning attack and gave Ash his first official league championship. Lycanroc later battled Professor Kukoi's powerful Incineroar in the exhibition match. Even though he didn't win that battle, he still pushed one of Kukoi's strongest Pokemon and showed how far he had come since his days as a wild Rockruff. At the end of the Alola journey, Lycanroc remained with Professor Kukoi alongside the rest of Ash's Alola team. He later watched Ash's World Championship battle against Leon from the Pokemon School. Lycanroc may not have reached the same level of power or popularity as Greninja, but his story was still extremely important. Now, after seeing all of the GOATs and all of Ash's greatest ace Pokemon, we have one of his strongest aces, because just like Lycanroc, he actually showed results: Lucario. Lucario had a lot of hype surrounding him in the Pokemon fandom. Fans had wanted Ash to own a Lucario for years, and this one eventually gained access to Mega Evolution. So let's get into the final ace Pokemon of the video. Lucario's story began as a mysterious Pokemon egg that refused to hatch for anyone who tried to care for it. The egg was eventually brought to Professor Cerise's laboratory, where Ash immediately noticed the powerful aura coming from inside it. The Pokemon inside could sense Ash's aura as well, and after Ash found the egg, it finally hatched into Riolu. From the very beginning, Riolu was extremely determined to become stronger. He constantly challenged Pokemon that were much stronger than himself, trained whenever he had the chance, and quickly developed one of the strongest aura connections Ash had ever shared with a Pokemon. As Riolu traveled with Ash through the World Coronation series, he continued growing stronger with every battle. However, one opponent stood above the rest: B's Graplocked. During their first battle, Graplocked completely overwhelmed Riolu, giving him one of the toughest losses of his journey. Instead of becoming discouraged, Riolu became even more determined to improve. Every defeat motivated him to train harder, and Ash worked alongside him every step of the way, helping Riolu steadily unlock more of his potential. Riolu's biggest turning point came during the battle against Chairman Rose. While battling Rose's Copperajah and Ferrothorn, Riolu sensed that Ash was in danger. Wanting to protect his trainer, Riolu pushed past his limits and evolved into Lucario. After evolving, Lucario's aura abilities became much stronger, allowing him to fight at an entirely different level. From that point forward, Lucario quickly established himself as one of Ash's strongest Pokemon and became the ace of his journey's team. Not long after evolving, Ash traveled to Kalos so Lucario could learn Mega Evolution. There they reunited with Karina and her Lucario, who helped them understand what it truly meant to Mega Evolve. Ash eventually earned a Keystone, while Lucario found his own Lucarionite, allowing the two to unlock Mega Lucario. At first, controlling Mega Evolution wasn't easy, but thanks to Ash and Lucario's incredible bond, they eventually mastered the transformation and became one of the strongest trainer and Pokemon duos in the World Coronation series. Lucario's first major test as a Mega Evolved Pokemon came during Ash's final battle against Bayo. The rivalry between Lucario and Graplocked had been building for the entire series, but B's true ace was her Gigantamax Machamp. Even against an opponent with both a type advantage and Gigantamax power, Mega Lucario refused to back down. After one of the toughest battles of his career, Lucario defeated Gigantamax Machamp with Steel Beam, finally overcoming the trainer who had handed him some of his greatest defeats. Before Ash challenged Raihan for a spot in the Masters 8, Lucario traveled back to Kalos and reunited with Greninja. Greninja quickly noticed that Lucario still wasn't using his aura to its fullest potential. Instead of simply battling him, Greninja spent time training Lucario, teaching him to calm his emotions and strengthen the connection he shared with Ash. Together, they also destroyed one of the remaining giant rock roots that Greninja had been protecting since the end of the Kalos series. By the end of the training, Lucario had become noticeably stronger and was finally ready for the biggest battles of his life. That training immediately paid off during Ash's battle against Raihan. Mega Lucario faced Raihan's Gigantamax Duraludon in the battle that would determine whether Ash entered the Masters 8 tournament. Despite Duraludon's overwhelming size and power, Lucario combined his aura with Ash's strategy to create an enormous aura sphere that finally defeated Duraludon. That victory officially placed Ash among the 8 strongest trainers in the world. Lucario's greatest accomplishment came during the Masters 8 semifinal against Cynthia. After battling through most of Cynthia's team, everything came down to Mega Lucario against Cynthia's ace, Garchomp. Before facing Garchomp, Lucario also defeated Cynthia's Dynamax Togekiss, making the challenge even more difficult. Even after taking heavy damage, Lucario refused to give up. Using Mega Evolution, Aura, and one final reversal, Lucario defeated Garchomp and sent Ash into the World Championship Finals. It was one of the greatest victories of Ash's entire career, and cemented Lucario as one of his strongest Pokemon ever. During the World Championship Finals against Leon, Lucario once again Mega Evolved and battled Leon's Mr. Rime. Lucario successfully defeated Mr. Rime before later facing Dragapult. Although Dragapult eventually knocked Lucario out, Lucario had already done exactly what Ash needed him to do by weakening Leon's team for the rest of the battle. That left the final showdown to Pikachu and Charizard, where Ash would eventually become the new monarch and the strongest trainer in the world. We've officially covered the story of every one of Ash's ace Pokemon. This video took super long to make, and this is a brand new channel, so make sure to like and subscribe for new videos every single week for Pokemon what-ifs and stuff like that. Tell me your guys' favorite Ash ace Pokemon in the comment section, and click on these videos on your screen right now.